Recording starts. This is the Nethiel SIG Release Meeting for April 3rd, 2023. So the agenda is already packed. So I'll give the floor to Bala.
Yeah, I mean, do you mind sharing the agenda?
Yeah, go ahead if you want to present and stuff. Yeah.
No, actually, if you could present, that would be great. Actually,
okay. Let me do it. Let me see if I can present something that is on the other account, because I have that on my Nethiel account. Let me try. Oh, the same problem again. Forgot to click that button. Can you see it?
He said started screen sharing, but
you don't see anything?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yeah, now we can see it.
So go ahead, Bala, all yours.
Well, thank you. And the first item I added, I don't know. I think we were somehow discussing that we will make it first 10-15 minutes of this release meeting every week, kind of status check and understanding the lay of the land of what different subgroups are doing, and check if everything is going smoothly. Is there any help needed? That was my understanding. Stephen, what was your understanding? Because looking at if that needs to happen, this particular meeting needs to have a lot of people.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm surprised. Well, I mean, for one thing, 10 o'clock Pacific, the European time zone other than them are probably not joining. But yeah, I mean, I would like to get more people to come in to talk about what they're. But I think at least the subgroup leaders needs to be here to talk about on for SIG2, to come in and talk about what the status is for R1. And then other than John, I think everyone is here, right, from that side.
Yeah, I mean, in general, since in general, what I was thinking, we could look at the board and things like that. We could do that, or we can just ask. I mean, for the
we can delegate to subgroup leaders to ask them, hey, this is in danger, this is in place, this is
exactly
what's the status and things like that. Yeah, because we obviously can't have all the volunteers come in at the same time, because the time of this meeting is actually pretty suboptimal for non-US people, actually.
Absolutely, I agree. So I think, yeah, I was thinking the same way like you said, Stephen. I mean, I was generally asking for everyone who is present here. I mean, I know we started sprinting, and our first sprint will end, and there are boards set up for each sprint. And obviously, if we cannot get to any of the work items, we will be able to. I know the sprints were very aggressive. It will be moved to the next sprint. It's fine. But with that said, I just wanted to ask what Stephen you said. Is there any blocks, any kind of help needed for any particular thing for the leads of subgroups that are present here, or anyone else for that matter?
Right.
If you have any concerns, any questions, please ask this one.
Yeah, I mean, we can, and supposedly the cross subgroups or between subgroup and SIG3, we should have discussions there if there's anything more needed. If you're blocked by us or blocked by any of the other subgroups, you can raise it here too.
So basically, you want to, Bala, you as the release lead for R1 want to use the first 15 minutes to know the release status from the sub leads.
Well, yes, actually, our agreement last week is like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that was the thing. But looking at the presence, you're right. That was the intention.
I see. Okay.
In any case, go ahead, Bala.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked the question. I know I'm part of a few things, sub sprints. I mean, they're doing good. Obviously, we'll discuss the individual issues in those individual meetings. So the one thing I want to ask Rado is, since thanks Rado for joining us. I know it's kind of late for you maybe. So in terms of the overall CI/CD setup, some of the pro setup, can you give us an understanding of where we are and what needs to be done? Because that's kind of a fundamental infrastructure block that needs the entire group needs.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the PRAO and GitHub integration, it's basically done. And just today morning, I've updated the README on the Nefio Test PRAO project, which we'll dedicate as a kind of playground repo to get yourself familiar with the whole setup. So there is pretty kind of cut and paste README how to do stuff, and there's example PRAO configuration there and some Go code that you can experiment on and see how it will behave. I will post this info in a Slack so people can start just get the feel of it. And yeah, if nothing major happens, then I don't really think anything any skeleton of the closet will fall out. I was testing it pretty extensively last few days. Then we can start enable it on next repositories as long as they have owner's file updated. Otherwise, it will just do nothing. So it will not base its behavior on the owner's file. So you will still have like a normal GitHub flow on this repository. So that's basically the status. I guess we're in a good position when it comes to at least the part of the code testing. For a CD part, that's also done, but there are some, I'd say, things that we have to deal before we can just open the floodgates on it. First thing is the limits on Docker Hub, which is 400 pulls per day, per 24 hours. And for example, if we were to build our own Docker images with, let's say, some functionality to test the code, right, and pull them every time from this Docker Hub, we will pretty soon used up all our pull limits. So from what I've read somewhere on Slack, I guess Lucy's on a subject to get us the OSS version, so it's like open software kind of account for a Docker Hub that has no limits. But I'm really not sure. Maybe Aravind, you have some better info about it.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Go.
Thanks, Rado. Yeah, I was checking with Lucy last week, and she's saying that she looks like she spoke to Docker Hub folks, and they are saying that, I'm just reading verbatim, right? Like if we have been pushing image updates like within the last 6 months on a regular basis, looks like that's the only criteria we don't meet. Other than that, looks like all the other criteria they have, we already meet. So she's trying to see if they can work with us, or is that a hard line? I'm not sure. But looks like we qualify on every other regards to get this open source sponsored account.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know whether they will really enforce that, saying, hey, no, you need to update 6 months. That means we won't get it in time, right? At least
Yeah,
not
I saw that thing from the Docker account too. So I think most likely for our one, we'll go with the free tiers to generate traffics and then see what we can apply afterward. But I right now, other than paying, I don't see any way to not use the free tier. Yeah.
So I think we could start with the free tier and see if we are hitting those limits. If we are, then we have to pay for it.
Yeah. So
I think we will hit it very soon. The free tier, if it is only 700 pulls, you said, later?
It's 100 per 6 hours.
100 per 6 hours. Okay. 400.
Something like this. So 400 a day. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, when I was developing, I was reaching that limit by myself. Just FYI.
Yeah. I mean, it's enough if you have some like a pre-merge jobs, pre-commit jobs that every time pull some image that you've created to test it. So let's say you want to extend with some script, I don't know, like some linter, right? So you're putting it there, and every commit, you got 600 commits, which is not unusual for bigger projects. And in a day you're done with it. But I guess for now we can just use like a generic images that are just provided on a Docker Hub. So for I don't know for some linters or something, and we will just not build very frequently. Just we'll have some images pushed there to generate traffic there. And that's it. So I guess that's the plan of action. So I didn't enable the CD part yet, as there's still some questions like what's gonna be whole release process looking like and so on. But I guess this is just a matter of discussion, and then the implementation is just a simple thing, so it can be done pretty easily. So for the I guess the first thing to have some code verification. We're ready for this part. As for the next, we'll see. As we'll be going through the process.
So I know a couple of hands were raised. Just I'll ask one question, though. One comment. We definitely, I think, Arvind, we need to definitely push Lucy to take this, like work with Docker Hub to make it happen somehow, or use the influence, LF's influence to it somehow. I think I'm pretty sure we will run it within 1 hour, this limit. If the rate at which the PRs are coming in, we are gonna run it very, very soon.
No, I agree. So I will follow up with Lucy and see what we can do. Either buy it for the R1 timeframe, eventually switch to the sponsored, or like you are saying, if we can somehow convince them to get a free account, we'll do that. Either way, we'll do the needful, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And just one question, Rado. So when you say code verification, so basically the pipeline can build the code and then can run the unit, can invoke the unit test. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can quickly share the test repo and the setup if you want. It's probably sometimes faster to show it like that. So
please go ahead.
Let me see.
Sorry, Wim, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please, Victor and Wim, please go ahead with your questions when.
Well, I had the same question, Bala. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No, well, so just regarding the limits, I know that some prefer like using other repos. Otherwise, you see like a Quay in order to limit. So I just wondering if you have considered these alternatives as part of avoiding
even GCR.io, so Google's, right?
Exactly, the Microsoft.
Even the Google one is way better. I mean, I use that one personally.
Yeah, I mean, we can store stuff on the GCR, but it's still paid per volume.
Sure.
I wasn't really sure what's the kind of like a liberty that we have on this account to create stuff. So for now, I was just using for a CD experimentation part. I was just using this Docker Hub free account that Aravind gave me access to. We can definitely use the GCR, but as I was saying, I'm not sure how's what kind of limits we have and stuff like this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and share something?
Because it's this costs can actually add up pretty quickly, but we'll see. I guess it's as far as I know, this is all running on a sponsored account from Linux Foundation, right? I mean the whole Google Cloud setup. That Pro is
so you mean,
right?
yeah, so we are the Google, Google Cloud account linked to Nesio.org is Yeah, paid for by Linux foundations.
Yep.
So
Is
we
there
do
any
have a limit. We do have a limit of how much we can spend because of that.
Okay. Is there any
I think most of
documentation
us
or
remember that we've been watching it during the ONE summit very closely.
is there any documentation or just some I don't know, email thread or something that I can be
No,
pulled
they
into
would. Well, they
just have
so we
general
haven't hit the
idea?
limit, so we don't know anything. But then we were. It's set up, but then we were told not to like overuse it. It's obviously bounded by how much money they invested into the account
Right.
during the time. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
So
mean,
yeah, so it would be actually good, I guess, to
Yeah.
to
So we
know
can
what's
clarify with LF to make sure that we are there's what is the limit, what is bounded.
Yep. Yeah.
We can
I
make
guess
that
it would be cool
introduction.
before we jump into like spinning additional clusters and
Mhm.
Adding builders and stuff like this to know more or less what liberty do we have in a spending field there. All right, but getting back to the original subject. You guys see my screen here?
No, let me
Yeah.
stop sharing.
Maybe you have to stop.
Yeah.
Stop
Go ahead.
sharing.
There you go.
Yeah, we can
All
see
right.
it. Yeah.
There should be a GitHub page, right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, all right, cool. So as I was saying on this Nephew Test Pro project, I've put some code using this module that Aravind originally put here, so we can just build like a sample application. There's a simple make file, simple Docker file that will be later on used for a CD part. But for now, there is a job in local prow configuration, a few jobs set. So one is just doing like a make test on this repository. Another one is doing just like a coverage test. And there is a link with just error check running on it. So you can just, play around, change this, try to use different parameters based on what's in the documentation here, play around with code, whatever, just, break stuff. So I guess it will be a good thing to just left this repository, like a quick summary of, the parameters, what you can change and so on. So I guess it will be good to leave this repository just for like new contributors to play around. So people are just, Pro is not really like a wide use software yet. So many people might be not familiar with it or might just be hesitant to do something if they're gonna break something or stuff like this. So you can play around with all this stuff here. So just feel free to create pull requests and so on. If something breaks here, nothing happens. You can just experiment with it. So here's like a simple one of the pull requests. I was testing something, so you can check the job status for all this. All of those jobs were configured in this pro.pro.yum file. So you can just see how it looks like, how the approved and looks good to me labels get applied through the slash commands and stuff like this. You can retest this, rerun this pre-submit commits, and generally play around with it. So I guess probably would be a good thing to see how this behaves if people have some reservations, or something's not the flow is not like expected or something like this, to have some adjustments to what I thought it's gonna work for our project here. And so then I can just enable it for the rest of the repositories, and then the owners or the developers or whoever's gonna take care of it can just start to making their own Pro job configurations, and and start testing.
Yeah, Wim?
Yeah, Radisla, I have a question basically. Is my understanding correct that this should be per repo that you have this Pro file?
Yeah. So that file here, you
Now,
configure in every repo whatever you want to do with it. So
Yes.
it gives you a big flexibility because you can, as you can see here, you can just basically either create like a in this file script to execute stuff in the container. Later on, what I'd like to have, once we had some kind of pipeline established, so okay, we're gonna use this test unit test software, this kind of framework for this and that and so on, that we'll have these images here. We will have our own built on our infrastructure based on the generic images containing all the stuff that we need. They're gonna live somewhere on Docker Hub or GCR or whatever the place for them will turn out. And so we don't have to do stuff like this. So like just getting stuff into the container. But on the other hand, there's also a problem with it because somebody has to maintain them. Think about the versions of this software, update them, rebuild them, and so on. But it will come up with in the process. Do we really need stuff like this, or are we gonna just for a starters just running like a Go test on a code base will be enough? We'll see.
So just a quick comment. So Prow allows like two types of configurations, right? Like one is you can configure all the repos, right, that we have from a centralized repository, like test infra, for example, and you can configure jobs. The other option is what they call it as in repo config, which is what Rado is showing. So like to Wim, to your question, we have for each repo, you can imagine in that particular repo, it should have a .prow directory. And then within which multiple YAML files, or there is one .prow.yaml per repo. Like API repo should have its own .prow.yaml, and then Prow will pick it up. So a couple of things needs to happen. Like we should notify, like let's say you want Prow enabled for a particular repo, you should notify, let's say Rado, and then we have to enable that repo to be watched by Prow, and that is part of SIG release work, right? SIG release, whoever is responsible for Prow, they will make sure that that repo is being watched. After that, that repo owner can start creating .prow.yaml file in their own repo, and then things should just work.
Yeah. Now, so here is the reason I'm raising that question, right? So I think we decided, or at least that's my understanding, is that all the controllers and all the functions will go into the Nefio repo. So Nefio project, and then there is Nefio,
right?
And the repo where they all go in, right?
Yep.
So why are we not setting this up in the, and then there is API where we put our CRDs and stuff like that. Why are we not just setting it up by now? Because, and just then we can consume it. Because I think it's, if these are the two repos that we are agreed upon, then let's enable it and then we can take it from there, right?
Yeah, that was, I had a similar, that was my next question, Wim. I think you asked my next question, yeah. Yeah, main repo is Nefio and Nefio API. So, I mean, maybe we are waiting, Rado is waiting for us to give him a go-ahead to implement this on those repos, maybe? Is that what you're waiting on? Rado?
Yeah, I can enable them just now. I was more thinking about having this sample repository so that people can just, if they're not familiar, to kind of get a grip of how it's gonna look. And then if somebody says, okay, please also enable this on the repository like a Nefio or API or something, I mean, it's not a problem. I can enable it even now. So
yeah, because we are, so sorry, Victor, but I'm still on this topic. So we are checking in PRs on the fly. So there is like, so I would rather use this right now than not to use it. And then we can test it and stuff like that. Like I think Vish, I mean, there is a presentation on the linters and stuff like that. I'm hoping that it's also enabled through this, so we can test all of that stuff while going through the process. And I rather have the pain now than in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a fundamental building block that will affect the entire team. That was one of the things. So I think, Rado, if you think this is, and obviously the Arvind, right? Arvind, if Arvind and you both understand what's this doing, probably I would suggest doing it on those two repos. And then, I mean, if
there is something changes, obviously will change. I mean, it's fine. It's a way of life in software. So
So as Arvind was saying, so enabling the PRAO to test stuff on a repo, it's a SIG release part. So we can do it even now. But then there's a question of like writing these jobs for it. So here's a repository with sample jobs. You can test it here. Nothing will, nothing will break here. Nothing will happen. If something breaks here, and then you can just copy this configuration to your API or to your Nephew repository. So it will kind of this repo here will kind of be like a playground to test stuff. So yeah, cool. I mean, if your guys good, I can enable
Like,
for
Ladislav, my view is like having a linter, having testing, having these type of things we always need when you do a check-in or something like that. I want to go through that now and figure out whether there is issues with it, because we are trying, of course, we are checking some PRs already in, even though they don't have tests, just to keep track of the work, but some do, right? And then I don't have a problem that process it's not complete, because we know it's not complete. But for those that have the full coverage, as we believe, I rather go through the whole chain right now than to wait.
I agree. Yeah, sure.
Agree.
So the after enabling, if you go to pull requests, you will have your pull request hanging here. You can just use the command /retest, and the PRAO will run the tests on it. It will be automatically picked up by a bot and sent to PRAO to retest whichever submission here you want to retest. So you don't have to submit something again or just wait for a new pull request. You can just run it on those already hanging here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, but I think you have to enable it in the repo. So once it's enabled, I want to use it all the time, basically. So that's why I'm raising it, unless someone objects. But I think it's.
I agree.
Totally. I think Victor has raised his hand, and I have one clarification question for Rado, but Victor has been waiting. So Victor, please go ahead. Then I'll go after you. Yeah.
Thank you, Valen. No, just like a simple question, like Rados, I don't know if you have done any tests using Docker in Docker, like especially because we are going to plan to use Kind. So just wondering if you have.
Yeah, I've done some of this also as a way of building Docker images, but I mean it has its own disadvantages, especially when it comes to the matters of security and infrastructure that we want to have kind of publicly open to, because I mean pull requests anybody can create, right? So potentially running Docker in Docker might also be a security risk, and generally, I mean, depends what you need it for. It can probably like create separate cluster, more restricted, and run some jobs there. So I don't know what's the use case here for this Docker in Docker.
No, well, the thing that I was thinking is like, for example, one of the steps, create like the Kind cluster, like for doing the testing, and in the next subsequent task, consuming that Kind cluster, and obviously this needs to be pre-created like in the previous steps. So
so basically here in containers, this is basically like a part that you have in your Kubernetes job description, so to speak. So for image, you can use whatever's like publicly available really here in your repo configuration. And if you want to use Docker daemon inside of it, you have to mount the volume with Docker socket, the control socket, right? So I can put some example here.
Okay.
But it works. It's not a problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, Rado, I mean, personally, I have a feeling that the Nephew repository, right? That's where if you go to the Nephew repository, PRs are coming very thick and fast. So there are 16 PRs. Some of them are designed, some of them are draft. We will talk about that section in a bit. I have a feeling if you could help setting it up in this repo, I think it will benefit the entire team a lot. So
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
said,
I mean, all you have to do basically is copy and paste this file here. So and base your testing
Except
on
maybe
this.
we should debate the Go version which we use because
yeah. Obviously, that's the first thing. A lot of things we need to figure out. It's 120 something, right? We are using.
Yeah, I would use 120 right now, but okay, that was my personal view. But yeah, besides the Go line, it seems the rest seems to be fine from what I see.
I mean, that's just what you know what I had. It might as well run on under 20. That's just so the make test here to give you know the broader picture. So like make test here or make coverage. It's just those are just commands for this make file.
Yeah.
So what it's running, it's just doing like a go test or this go test coverage. And that's it. So you can in your make file you can configure like whatever you want to make. It will be executed in a container, and the results gonna be in your Pro instance UI. So yeah, I can definitely work with whoever's gonna configure this Pro job on this Nephew repository to make the best out of it. So I'm you know.
Actually, Rado, I was requesting if you could set it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
No,
I can
no
help
problems.
you, Rado.
Yeah, if you could set it up, and then I can, if you want, I can test it. But does it mean did I get it right? Because I'm not familiar with Brow, by the way. Sorry about that. But that our make files needs to contain coverage as a.
No, you can put it. You can put anything there.
Because today I'm using the Cube Builder framework, so it's like make test or make tests, which does font and so it does. So I'm using that let's say structure at the moment.
Yeah, you can put whatever command you want there.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be make. It might be like a shell script to execute like Python file. Just whatever's necessary.
Yeah,
I got some changes. I got to
line.
push a PR, a Vim, that I can on my next one that I can walk through what I might change.
Yeah, okay, because I was trying to, if we try to align a little bit on the framework, then we try to do it all a little bit the same. There will be probably deviations going forward, but if we try to use the same framework somehow, I think it's, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, the native Go, whatever native Go supports, right? And the makefile and all the stuff.
but also our make files, if we make them a little bit aligned, then at least we can benefit from it, I'm assuming. But
yeah, absolutely. I think just in the interest of time, so Rado and Vish, I guess you will be working together to set it up on the Nephew API. Is that the right?
Yeah, I can actually work with Rado on the Nephew, this one, the one that is being shared on the screen for sure as a first step. Let's go with that. And then we'll probably get somebody else to do the API so that more people can actually get the hang of
absolutely fine. Yeah, at this point of time, yes. Yeah, thank you so much.
Is there a task already there in the board?
Sorry. Yes, I mean, I think some of these are already there. Yes, it's in the board. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that means we can add our tagger names there.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Rado. I really appreciate it. This is going to enable the entire team. I mean, you're pulling the entire team together. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to help.
Yeah.
Really all right. So just one more thing before I remember. So Aravin, if you'll be so kind to enable the bot on these two repositories, and
it's already enabled on these repos.
Okay. Okay. Great. Cool. Yeah. So
cool. Thank you so much. So
just after the call, I will configure it. I'll let you know on the SIG Release channel.
cool. Thank you so much.
On the Slack.
Really appreciate it.
Oh,
So,
one-
yes,
And
Oh,
so, I
one
mean,
more-
when you
one
push
more
it,
thing.
Rado, it is going to be more like a PR that you're going to push, which will get reviewed,
Yeah.
right? Sort of.
Yeah,
before it gets merged.
exactly, exactly. Oh, one more thing. For a Slack channel, do we want to have like a separate channel for bot to talk to, so it will send the build status there?
Oh, that'll be
Might-
great, actually.
mi-
We used to have
might-
that.
Yeah, might help with some.
Yeah, we used to have that while I was at IBM.
Yeah. So who's so to speak in charge of a Slack?
Everyone.
Everyone. All right. All right.
so yeah, I mean, you put a general question. I think maybe I don't know who is the Slack admin from our side. Probably put if you ask a general question, it will be.
Yeah,
answered.
I don't think we have any Slack admins.
I think
No,
anyone
I mean
can
to
go
say, like-
Slack channel, Bella. That's what that's my experience.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, hey, Ryder, really appreciate it. Thank you. So, Stephen, if you could share the screen again, if you go back to the agenda, I think there are at least 3 more items. If I remember, we can go fast.
Can I go next?
Let's see.
We should discuss the end-to-end test bed because I think the requirements.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Vish would be talking about end-to-end testbed, right?
No, this I added. No, mostly
Okay.
I just wanted to bring up.
Go ahead then, Howard. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to initiate the discussion. I think hopefully the right folks are here, right? Like we need to clarify what exactly are the requirements for the end-to-end test bed in terms of what exactly we want to do in terms of networking, how many clusters we want to create, etc. for R1, right? So Victor, after you, I just wanted to initiate the conversation.
Okay, yeah, so basically there's a couple of things that we have to define. So obviously we have to create like a more realistic scenario where we have like multiple Kubernetes clusters and connect with each other and using realistic Kubernetes versions. So I think that we have to establish at least define those requirements here. So I know in certain point it doesn't really matter, but eventually I think it's going to be hard to, or even better to define things like that. So starting with the requirements, I think John mentioned like the initial setup that we have it, which was 1 managed cluster, 1 regional cluster, and 2 edge clusters. I mean, this is good for starting, but you know, eventually we add more clusters. There are pros and cons. Obviously, more clusters or more nodes in those clusters means more realistic scenarios, but also represents more CPU load, especially for testing and requirements for the VM. So I just want to bring that pros and cons. So what do you think?
So, okay, Wim, are you first?
Yeah.
Oh, you're first, I think.
Okay. One of the things, at least I know, Arvind, you and I discussed a long time back, was at least definitely we want to be running the end-to-end tests on the Kubernetes clusters on the Google Cloud, and also the ability for developers to be able to run, if they wish to reproduce that, issues on kind clusters on a VM. At least that is what I, as a developer, would like to have, the opportunity that wait a minute, it's actually failing on the Kubernetes clusters, but let me try to see what I can try to replicate on a local VM using kind clusters. So running those end-to-end tests on both will be something that I would want to recommend.
So just Beach, regarding the current setup like that with 1 managed cluster with 1 regional cluster and 2 edge clusters using kind, at least we need 8 CPUs. So that's something normal, especially for current setup in laptops, but probably going beyond could be hard or easy. Could be hard to deal with that. I mean, just using that as a starting point.
So you're saying trying to run it on kind clusters is going to be hard?
Well, if we increase the number of clusters or even the number of nodes in those clusters,
Okay.
so yeah, it's going to require more a little more
Okay.
CPU.
I see. But I'm saying that there may be some use cases, if we can, for certain use cases, scenarios, for people to get familiar. You know, sometimes the end-to-end tests, you also need to be able to get folks up to speed, something that they can do on their own VMs. Certain use cases running there will be good to get folks up to speed as well, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. Like I don't like to the contribution to be limited just like for few people who has access to a lot of resources.
Yeah, and you don't want to be the bottleneck too, to look at every single issue and try to, like, you know, debug it for them. So scalability things, basically. That's it. That is the point I was trying to make for actually having both.
So I think that the next one is Wim.
Yeah, so first my question was on the end-to-end. So let's maybe first agree on what our goal is end-to-end. Is it, so let me ask, for me, the first question starts, do we want to set up a call?
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking. My
Yeah,
view
I mean,
is, my
yeah.
assumption was always yes, but I don't believe that everyone is on the same page there. But so that for me, if you talk end-to-end test, then we should first, because I agree there is other things that we need to do, but let's first discuss end-to-end, right? Because otherwise this developer experience and stuff like that, maybe we can deal with that along the way, but let's first discuss end-to-end. Do you agree? I mean, and then my goal is, what is end-to-end? My understanding has always been for our in R1, in the demo we skipped a call. In R1 there was always, we have to have a call that we can set up somehow. Is that we agree with that? That's the first question.
So Arvind has set up actually created a issue. It's actually for the SIG 2 Wim. I think both you and John are commenting on the story. I think it's a great place to document whatever we are discussing. I agree with you. I mean, coming out with that larger picture of the end goal will help us come out with the test scenario. Like you said, it could be set up an end-to-end call. That means we will mimic what Orange has done in their demo, what they showed us. Or it could be just that, I think looking at the Orange demo, I think they set up everything other than the UPF, maybe in the UPF also, I'm not sure. Same cluster.
Every yes, but so
yeah.
But I think it starts with what is that, right? So it starts with that, and then we go back from what do we need to accomplish that. And that's why when I created the Ansible playbook at the end of the day, I thought when we did the one summit, we fell short in how that whole end-to-end thing had to be set up. So when I started the Ansible playbook, one is I created ability to replicate what we did into the POC for people, because we had let's say the demo scenario when it was set up, but we didn't have the way to set it up, right? Now during that whole exercise, I created that environment to be able to do an end-to-end call. So in other words, setting up the networking, setting up all the infrastructure. So it's not just clusters, it's everything. And so if you look to that playbook, it has all of that stuff already embedded. And whether you want one cluster, two clusters, I want for development, you have all the flexibility in that environment to deal with that, because we made it configurable. But that's why I'm saying, going back to the same thing always, is let's first discuss what is our end goal, and then let's see how to accomplish that. But what I'm trying to say is that a lot of this work has been done already.
Got it. So may I suggest, Arvind, I mean, please veto me here. May I suggest that for the story that you created, rather the GitHub issue we created, that is a good place to discuss this come out with these are the, say, 3 or 4 scenarios that we want to accomplish, and this is going to be the test bed scenario for each one of those 4 scenarios. I think, do you think that's a good discussion avenue?
Yeah, I think basically, yeah, the way I look at it, SIG2 provides the requirements, right? And then Victor is the lead for this effort. So basically, SIG2 chairs, Victor and other folks, whoever is relevant, need to finalize this, right? So that issue is used for that purpose. So maybe we don't have to discuss it here. Maybe there could be an offline meeting, a 30-minute or 1 hour meeting. That's some of these we could get together and kind of discuss this, right? Victor, does that make sense? Because we need to go into the details, right? We cannot discuss at a surface level. But I think for R1, we should set up a call, right? That's always been the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
but we
let's do
have-
that. Let's.
Yeah, so we have the issue. I mean, we have been commenting on it, but I wanted to clarify with us that that our goal is common. So I'll put that in that issue tracker, and then we can debate it from there. But there is already a discussion starting there, right?
Right. Yeah. One clarification question. I know that Wim had created the Ansible playbook, which does bulk of the heavy lifting, right? Like whatever was required for R1 already. But I know that Victor also has few setups. So Victor, do you want to comment on that? Like from your vantage point, how do you look at it? There are 2 different ways of configuring, right? Like what approach have we debated on which approach we are going to take? Because that discussion needs to happen as well, right?
Yeah. Just going regarding before moving to our point. So I'm agree with you were saying, like especially talking about the scope. But yeah, we have to be especially aware of that any resource. I mean, just trying to fit everything in a single VM or like local computer. So every resource that you give it to the workload has to be taken from maybe from other place. So I'm not saying that it's not doable, like, yeah, but I would like to end in having testing all these things in an all-in-one setup. So I just trying to find the balance, like where we can test all these things in a realistic scenario, but also like you said, like having in mind the goal and the scope that we are trying to achieve. So yeah, but definitely we need to discuss things. And also, I guess one of the things that we have to do is start collecting the resources, terms like every single, at least how much resources Nephew consumes in terms like CPU and memory, and also the resources that the workloads are going to consume. So we are thinking like free 5G is going to add extra resources as well. So we have to put that in place.
Yeah, but so Victor, just FYI, right? I mean, our recommendation has always been, even if you look to the repo, to have 8 virtual CPU and I think 32 gig of RAM, right? Mm-hmm. I'm using an environment with 4 virtual CPU and 16 gig of RAM. It's not what we recommended because most people don't test it, but for me, it consistently works. Now, okay, this is POC, right? So we have to do the same thing for R1, but it's hard to give you that information at this stage because we're still developing, right? So, but I mean, if I look to the scope, of course, if you want to have an end-to-end call, so what is the difference is we will have probably more than 1 UPF. I'm assuming we have an SMF and AMF, so there will be more workloads, right? So let's say instead of 1 that we did for the POC, let's say we have 4, right? Just to give you, and we have a test generator if you want to do a call. So you basically have 5 times the workload thing. I don't believe that on the management cluster, we have a lot more stuff. It will be very similar to what we had in the POC. So, but I think we should look at the resources needed for free 5GC and assume it's 5 times more.
Yeah, no, I don't know if the free 5GC stuff is actually that heavy.
I don't think any of it is heavy in my view, Stephen.
I think all of them are being used just to set up the kind clusters and just let it sit there. I don't think that the CPUs are burning or anything like that.
So if I may interject, I mean, let's continue this discussion in the thing, and like Arvind said, let's dedicate a whole meeting for this one, because I think this topic is
Yeah.
And, Wim, let's figure out, let's list out the wish list for the end-to-end testing in that ticket, and let's have a separate meeting for this in maybe one of these meetings this week or early next week.
Sure.
Thank you. So can we go to the next item? I just want to doing that because make sure that Vish also wanted to present. We just want to give him some time.
Sure. And also, well, probably just regarding the scope, I was just thinking to split the scope into two phases. The first one is to validate like just nephew components, like having some functional tests and system tests to just validate the operability of nephew. And the second phase, or the second part of the scope, is like testing like the workloads of nephew. So I guess managing the scope in that way, we can make a little bit more planning or define things.
Because Victor, I saw another maybe comment is like, I see some of these repos like building multi-cluster and stuff like that. I mean, it's all nice to do so, but going forward, Nephew will tackle these things by themselves, right? So to be able to set up a cluster and stuff like that. So my view is, for the end-to-end test, we should not focus on that right now. What we should focus on is Nephew. What is Nephew is the components to install them on the workload cluster and the management cluster. So the fact that we build scenarios to set up multi-cluster, in my view, it's not the goal to tackle right now, because we are not, that's not the focus of Nephew. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because there will be, so we will build most likely, I don't know, let's say in our 2 clusters in scope, you will have a Nephew controller that helps with that. So in other words, everything we do today on how to set up cluster and stuff like that is, it's not part of Nephew. We need it, but it's not the goal of Nephew at the moment.
Okay, that's even better for us. Like definitely, we have to focus only in the first part of the scope.
What is our one? Our one is setting up operators to deploy network functions and the management cluster, right? So that's what we are focused upon. And of course, we need a cluster. And okay, we have ways to do so. So let's use that. Let's not focus on building a tool to set up clusters, because that's not what we want to achieve in Nephew right now.
Okay, so can I have 2 minutes, and the reason why I want to talk for this 2 minutes is I think this patch set, if it gets merged, will help. So let me take over. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
No, we still see the ballot
Let
screen.
me stop sharing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. So the key is that I know I was looking at Wim's patch set, PR49, and I wanted to be able to like look at his code coverage and stuff like that. So very quick, as part of doing that, I made some enhancements to the makefile. This is something that we had done in OVN Kubernetes as well, where we were also, I mean, I am a container fan. I always run everything on containers. So basically, this had support for running, unit tests. If you have containers installed, you can do that, or else you can actually go ahead and run it locally as well. And I also added support for lint. I'm glad, Rado, you are also using Golang CI lint. It could be run locally as well. And if you have containers, you can run instead of a container with the versions that is supported here called out. And the other cool thing is, you can also get, it outputs certain HTML files and function coverage files like you see here. So I took Wim's PR, and I should be able to look at the 2 things, and I'll see what is tests basically for the condition.go will cover 60%, because this seems like it has not been tested. This is something for newbies who come to Go when they want to look at something to see when the right unit test. This will actually give out a good output, and they should be able to figure out what is being covered, what is not being covered as well. So this is a cool feature.
Yeah.
And
but Rich, I like it because that's what my comment is actually. What you're suggesting is a makefile template that should take these things into account, right? So that's what you are doing. So I like that, because we should try to come up with a Nephew-based makefile template or something like that.
Yeah.
That we use. So it's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I think that this PR should get merged so that everybody who's writing a PR can use this to do their linting locally and also are able to do their unit test run. So please take a look at it. I need to rush to another meeting. And this is another file where it actually tells you for each of the, it can actually give you the percentages of coverage as well here in this. So Go is pretty cool at actually giving this kind of, things, feedback to the developer to improve the code.
So,
Yeah.
so Vish, I know we are reaching the end of this. So can you please work with Radu? I just want to make sure if there is any overlap, anything like that. Can you, anyway, since you both are working, can you please work together?
Yeah, Rado is aware.
Yeah.
I need to
So-
drop, guys. I need to be on the call, another call. Thank you.
Cool,
for the,
thank you.
Yeah, bye.
So,
Thank you.
so the other thing, it's okay. I wrote it down about the PR stuff. Just recommendation is, there are a lot of PRs coming, especially from the WIMS group, especially from WIMS group. So I think as a group, we should let's spend time to review the PRs so that we can get that one going. So that will be immediate feedback to the authors of the code. I really appreciate that. So that's all I wanted to say from the last item.
And this is time. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you so
See you
much.
guys next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, cool, thanks.